Hello dear students, in this video we are going to continue with our special senses. Here we are going to discuss two important topics, I would say. One is what is the physiology of hearing and what are the theories of hearing. So they are nothing but both are similar, and here this topic is very important for the final exam theory papers as well as viva questions. So this topic is relatively very important for the first year MBBS students. Okay, so let's get into the topic, like how the perception of sound is happening and how this sound is being perceived as sound by the brain. So let's get into the topic. The physiology of hearing, the audible frequency range of humans is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So this is the audible frequency. And sound, basically we will be using two different terms. One is the pitch, another one is the loudness. So what is pitch? It is the subjective sensation produced by the frequency of the sound. In the auditory pathway video itself, I told you, pitch is nothing but a frequency of the sound. And for example, if I compare this with this second wave, which is having a higher frequency, obviously the first one has a higher frequency. And generally the pitch of sound is higher in case of females. That's why the female voice is sometimes referred as shrill in type. Shrill means the frequency is very high. Whereas the second one, this is nothing but the amplitude. This amplitude means it is how loud the sound is. So the amplitude will indicate the loudness, whereas pitch will indicate the frequency. And this loudness is generally determined in decibel. And whenever we study about hearing losses also, how much decibel is lost in that particular person. So this is the SI unit for it, that is nothing but the decibels. And previously we have seen this important structure wherein we have seen that there is a tectorial membrane present. This is nothing but the organ of corti. So this is the tectorial membrane which is present, which is going to help for the movement of the hair cells. And the hair cells are further divided into outer hair cells and inner hair cells. So in this image itself, you can see the inner hair cell has one row of hair cells. Here it has only one row of hair cells, whereas the outer hair cells has about 3 rows of outer hair cells. And you can clearly see from this diagram itself, the inner hair cell is the one which is continuing as the vestibulocochlear nerve. So the cochlear nerve is drawn here. So the inner hair cell will sense the sound and help it to continue to the cochlear nerve. So inner hair cell, we can say that it is the sensor of sound. Sensor of sound. So what its function is? It is going to sense how much all the sound quality, perception, pitch, loudness and everything. Then what is the function of outer hair cells? Because it is the sensor. The outer hair cell will help to modify or amplify the sound that is being heard by the inner hair cell. So it is like a modifier or an amplifier. So both has its individual functions which help us to perceive the sound. So this is how the sound waves are produced. And in the first video itself, we have seen the functional anatomy, wherein whenever there is a movement of the hair cells, the potassium is going to enter in, and then they are going to cause the depolarization, wherein the calcium entry will be there, followed by the release of the neurotransmitter, which can generate the action potential. So once these action potentials are generated, so this I have described in the functional anatomy video. Please do make sure to see that video also. So the action potentials are, once they are generated, they are carried via the cochlear nerve, and we have seen the pathway how it reaches the brain also. Now there are some theories which are proposed for the hearing, and the first theory is called as traveling wave theory. What they have observed is this traveling wave theory, whenever the sound waves are there, the stapes is attached to the oval window. So this is nothing but the stapes is attached here. So this is the stapes bone. So here there will be a stapes bone, and it is attached to this area which is called as the oval window. And the another window, all of you know that it is nothing but the round window. It is a round window. So what happens here is whenever there is a sound, the stapes is going to put that impact into the oval window, and the cochlea will be the structure which is going to sense it. And they have observed that whenever the high frequency waves are there, all the vibrations happen at the start of the cochlea itself. So this is called as the base of the cochlea. So this is the base which is sensing the higher frequency. And whenever the frequency is lower, they were able to travel through this membrane and reach up to the middle region in the cochlea. So that is for the medium frequency. And whenever the waves are having a lower frequency, they were able to travel and reach the end or the apex of the cochlea. So apex of the cochlea. So here they have identified one thing very clearly. The differentiation of different frequencies is possible at the cochlear level itself. The cochlea will sense the higher frequencies at the base, whereas the lower frequencies will be sensed by the apex of the cochlea. So this point of maximum displacement of the basilar membrane depends on the frequency of the sound. So in that way, we can identify whether the sound is having a higher frequency, higher pitch, or a lower pitch. This is just like a drop of water which is displacing and creating a wave. So that's why this theory is called traveling wave. And depending upon the weight of the stone that is being dropped, the amount of waves or the vibration of the region will be different. So likewise, the higher frequencies, they are vibrating at the base, and the lower frequencies, they are vibrating at the apex. So that's how this theory is explaining. That's how we are able to perceive different type of frequencies. Next, there is a very close theory which is called as a place principle. So here what they are saying is the major method, this is the major method used by the brain to detect different sound frequencies, is to determine which position of the basilar membrane is excited. So it is nothing but, for example, right now we saw that whenever the basilar membrane is excited at a basal level, the higher frequencies can be sensed. So what the brain will do is, just in case if the basilar membrane is stimulated at the base level or the base level, then the brain will perceive that this must be a higher frequency sound. So this theory is called place principle. Depending upon the particular place in the cochlea, the brain will perceive whether this is a higher frequency or a lower frequency. This we have also studied as a feature in the auditory pathways, that is called tonotopic organization. It is very specific region will sense whether it is a low frequency or a higher frequency. So what the brain is doing? The brain is detecting different type of sound frequencies, determining by the position along with the basilar membrane is being stimulated the most. If the base is stimulated the most, the brain also will sense that this is a higher frequency of this. So what they have given here is, this is the distance from the stapes in millimeter and the frequency. Let's see, the higher frequency is like 8000. It is stimulated at the start moving from the stapes itself, whereas the lower frequencies are stimulated at the end of it. How this is happening is because base of the cochlea is narrow and stiff, so they will be vibrated by the higher frequency, whereas the apex is wide and flexible, so they will be vibrated by the low frequency waves. So the traveling theory and place principle, they are almost similar to each other. When the brain is able to perceive it based on the stimulation of the basilar membrane, that is called as the place principle. When different frequencies are stimulating different areas, that is called as a traveling wave theory. Next, coming to the next theory, that is called as Wally theory or frequency coding principle. What do you understand by Wally? Wally is nothing but group. Suppose whenever the sound frequency is very high, how the brain is able to sense it? This is also called as frequency coding principle. This principle is also called a frequency coding principle. So let's take first a simple example. Whenever there is a low frequency, maybe one afferent is being stimulated or two afferents are being stimulated. So they can fire in synchrony because the frequency is lower. For example, they are at equidistance from each other. Can you see it here? So the afferent one is firing at the same rate at any given point of time. In a similar way, the afferent 2 is also able to get stimulated at the same pace. Here not much of grouping is happening, but whenever the frequency is very high, what is the limitation in higher frequency is a single nerve cannot transmit that many amount of impulses at a given point of time, because the nerve has something called as relative refractive period and absolute refractive period. During that refractory period, it cannot elicit any kind of impulses. So what the brain does is, it will try to recruit multiple afferents. So it will recruit afferent 1, afferent 2 and afferent 3 and then summate it after some time. I know this sounds like a little bit of complicated concept. Let's try to understand with a simple example. Suppose, for example, you must have during your childhood, you must have seen some movies also wherein they tap the bell when the class is over. Suppose, let's imagine there is a bell which is hanging here and the person, now he has to tap it 500 times. So now this person has to tap it 500 times in 1 minute. In 1 minute. Is it possible? He has to tap it at a very rapid rate. It will be very, very difficult. Suppose what I do is I have a same bell, but I appoint 3 people around it, surrounding it, so that everybody can tap it when the other person is not able to tap at the frequency. So 2 taps he is giving, the next person is also giving 2 taps. So this frequency can be done at a very, very high rate when it is done by multiple people. In a similar way, the afferent fibers, they are also firing at the rate as much they are able to fire. And the afferent 2, they are firing at a different rate. You can see here, the distance is completely different. Sometimes they are firing at, suppose the afferent 1 is firing at, let's say, 100, the afferent 2 is firing at 200, and afferent 3 is firing at 300. So suppose the afferent 3 is also firing at, suppose let's say this is firing at 100, this is 200, this is also firing at 100. So now I will get the summation, and you are sitting in the class. For you, you will not know how many people are standing and hitting it there. For you, you will just hear that in 1 minute I could hear 500 sounds. So like that, the final end product of all the afferents will be summated for the higher frequency, and the brain can code them in groups. So now we had separate afferents, and now we are grouping them to understand things for the higher frequency. That's how our brain can understand the higher frequency, which is also called as frequency coding principle. I hope you can understand this. If you have any further doubts, please drop it in the comment section. I'll be happy to address your doubts. So this is all about the physiology of hearing, and where are the 3 different types of 3 theories of hearing. The first theory was traveling wave theory, and second was place principle, and the third is Wally or the frequency coding principle. I hope it's clear. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any further doubts, kindly drop it in the comment section. I'll be happy to address your doubts. Thank you so much.